pawn to d4. Today is yet another day to explore something new. These days I've been messing around with various opening responses against the queen's pawn game. And today won't be different. I want to show you something new but stable that you can surprise your opponents with. Now there's what we call traditional openings, you guys, gambits, unorthodox openings, and also strategic openings, sidelines. What I'm about to show you is more of a strategic opening. You want to control the game, right? So here's how we are going to manipulate white's mind. You start with d5 and immediately white plays pawn to c4. Which is the top played move, by the way, the queen's gambit. You don't play pawn to c6, you don't play e6, the queen's gambit declined, you don't play knight f6 or accepting the queen's gambit. The move I want you guys to try out is this stupid looking move, bishop e6, because it violates one of the opening principles that states never should you put a minor piece in front of your pawns like this. See, our dark squared bishop is blocked. But hold on, we have a strategy in this position. We just want to replace our d pawn with our light squared bishop to oversimplify the game. We want to put our light squared bishop on d5 so that it becomes a bigger pawn. And you will see that we are also inviting white to play knight c3 and then take our light squared bishop in exchange for an open position, because most d4 players love playing closed positions and taking advantage of the e5 square. So now that you know our strategy, where did I get the inspiration from? Watch. In the normal queen's gambit, black usually plays pawn to c6, and after knight f3, one of the moves I like is d takes c4, which is what I recommended in my last video, by the way. So after this, the top played move by white is pawn to e3. You can check the master's database. So once you see pawn to e3, this is when you're supposed to play the move bishop e6. This is also trusted by grandmasters. In fact, bishop e6 is the top choice at grandmaster level. You can see with your own eyeballs. And the whole idea of playing bishop e6 is to put the light squared bishop on d5 later on and then continue with the normal development. In this variation, grandmasters never mind exchanging their light squared bishop with white's queen's knight in order to gain an initiative. And this is where I'm coming from, by the way. Very beautiful opening, you should give it a try. So back to my useless looking opening response after d4, d5 and pawn to c4. Instead of playing pawn to c6, you can test your opponent's patience by going bishop e6. That's what is happening here. Given a chance we're going to take, that will just be a free pawn. For example, if white plays knight f3, here we can just take, or play knight f6, whatever. After this move, most of your opponents are going to take on d5, which is what we want, and then you take back with your light squared bishop. And promptly, you will see most of your opponents developing their queen's knight, because it comes with an attack on the bishop. But what you're going to do here is just to continue with the normal development. I propose knight f6, because most of your opponents will be more than happy to take your light squared bishop to get rid of your, bishop pair. That's the top played move. But after this, you can simply take back. And what I like about this, it allows me to play the diluted Alekhine system. As you can see, the top played move here is pawn to e4, which allows me to relocate my king's knight to the queen's side like this. So knight b6. And now white has these pawns to worry about. I'm ready to go pawn to e5 whenever I want, by the way. So I'm doing all these things to play an open game, which d4 players don't like. And just to oversimplify everything, I'm in control of the game. From here, our plan will be c6, given a chance, or knight c6, it doesn't matter, but c6 is more principled. Knight d7 will come later on. e6, bishop check, or bishop e7, will castle short. h6 will come later on. And it all depends on what white does, by the way. So let's start with the top played move in this position, knight f3. You see, even though you can play knight c6 or knight d7 or anything you want, try this move. Pawn to e5. And this is what I mean. The thing is, if knight takes, this is when you go bishop b4 check. According to Stockfish, position is plus 0.6, which is almost equal and very far from losing. If they play bishop d2 blocking the check, position is like negative 1.1 in favor of black. Again, this is why I said this is a strategic opening. Good. So here you're just going to take the d4 pawn, and after they take like this, you see, if I were you, I would even take the e4 pawn first, like pop with check, and whatever they do, say bishop e2, that's when I take the dark squared bishop with tempo. And on the next move, I'm going to castle short. See how well simplified this opening is, ladies and gentlemen. After bishop b4 check, white has to accept losing his right to castle, maybe by playing king e2. And then what do? You're just down a pawn. You sacrificed your e5 pawn, right, to open up the game. So now you go queen e7. And look at the position. Still plus 0.6. So you're one move away from going pawn to f6 and get back your pawn. You're playing an open game. Okay, let's just say white plays something like queen d3 to protect the e4 pawn in advance. First of all, castle short is okay. Or something like bishop d6. Why bishop d6? Because you don't want to entertain your enemy's pieces for a very long period of time in your territory. So this knight has to go back. If pawn to f4, by the way, you can just go pawn to f6, castle short, and continue playing normal chess. Your opponent's king is still on the center. So white has to play something like knight f3 here, and you just continue playing normal chess, nothing to memorize. Knight c6, here I can even castle long. So you just want to be ahead in development. By the way, this doesn't make sense. You can just castle long. At this point, I don't even know what black should do. Maybe something like bishop e3. This is what people like doing, but you can see the more white continues playing, the closer we are getting back to equal. White has to be very accurate all the time, which is almost impossible. So of course with bishop e3, maybe white is preparing to go pawn to e5. So we always want to be a little bit careful. Here I can play knight b4, attacking the queen. If check, I have pawn to c6, obviously. Maybe queen f5 has to be played. I mean, there are so many things I can do here. Even castle short is okay, or pawn to g6, whatever. After d4, d5, and pawn to c4, once again, you can just go bishop e6, preparing to transpose the game like this. So once again, after white takes and then you take back, they play knight c3, just go knight f6. Most likely they are gonna take, or even if they don't take your light squared bishop right away, sooner or later they are going to take that bishop because they want to remain with a bishop pair. So let's just say knight takes, the top played move once again. Quite alright, you can take back with the queen, that's if you want, and that's fine. But I just love, closing the center like this and then playing in the Aleheim system. Because I know I'm gonna open the center anyways. Right, so once again, after knight f3 and pawn to e5. Oh, by the way, this is just one of the options. A safer option is to go pawn to e6, that's if you want, and play traditional chess, bishop b4 check, exchange bishops, castle short, knight 8 d7, and finally knight f6, depending on your test. You're going to have a very good game from there, well simplified. But once again, feel free to go pawn to e5. We saw what happens after white takes with the knight. I mean, you just call bishop b4 check again, forcing white to lose their right to castle. But what if white plays d takes e5? Again, there's no need to exchange queens. That's not the main purpose, by the way. This is one pawn, by the way. This is just one pawn. So just go bishop b4 check. Again, this kind of forces white to lose their right to castle. Because moves like bishop d2 here just helps us to get back into the game. There are many things that you can do here, including queen e7. If they take, you take, and then you're gonna take this as well, probably. Blocking with the knight here is not even a good option because of queen d4. You're going to take back your pawn. Either ways, even if pawn to f4 is played, we can just take the e4 pawn. The knight is pinned. So d takes e5 is not even a good option at all. Right. So again, feel free to go pawn to e5, even though you can still play e6. Even pawn to g6, by the way, you can if you can carry your bishop, but I don't like playing like this when I want to play an open game. So again, after knight f3, pawn to e5 is a very simple move to remember, and it opens up the game. But what if white plays this intermediate move, bishop b5 check? Well, you can just go pawn to c6, that's all. That bishop has to go back, and white should even be extra careful here. They can't just play moves like bishop c4, you're gonna take. Even bishop a4 is questionable, because your knight is on b6, right? Yep. And bishop d3 is like the worst move of all times. You can just take on d4 and equalize the game easily. So they have to play something like bishop e2 here. And now it's up to you to continue whichever way you want. Like you can go g6 if you want, you can carry your bishop and castle short, that's fine. Or you see, even in this position, you can go pawn to e5 right away. This is one thing I like about this, because if they take, the idea is not to exchange queens right away, but to go knight 8 d7. You want to win that pawn back. And frankly speaking, the best white should do here is to give us back the pawn. Yep. And accept playing an open game. Otherwise, moves like pawn to f4 will just equalize the game instantly. We have many tactics coming, you guys. In fact, after knight c5, the game is back to equal. Like if they take, which they don't like doing, you can take back. And now you're about to take this pawn. So if they play something like this, you have knight d3 check. And anyways, on the next move, you don't even have to take right away. You can develop your bishop if you want. Quick development is key. If bishop d2, you just take. That's almost a free piece. And then you take on f4. Like, if you don't want to go pawn to e5, that's fine. Again, you can play pawn to e6. e6 is a solid way to go about it, by the way. They'll play knight f3. And then you go bishop b4 check or bishop e7, depending on your taste. After bishop d2, you can trade off bishops and then go knight 8 d7 once again. This is not a gambit. You have equal number of material and your pawns are well fixed. The game may continue as follows: castle short, equal game. What are they going to do? Anyway, so after something like rook d1, you're back into the game all of a sudden. And there's one game in this position that I found in the Lichess database between two strong 2600 rated players, which tells you that I'm not just making this stuff under the influence of alcohol. I don't drink. Anyways, I just wanted to pass a bad joke. So even right here, you can go pawn to e5. This is just how, fun this thing is. Or just play simple chess, queen f6 or knight f6. I don't know, depending on the plan you come up with. I love, this inducing e5 so that I can play queen e7 and next do this and bring my a rook on d8. This is just one of the plans, or just whatever you want to do. The thing is, you have no risks and you're just playing the game of chess, both of you. So let's address another type of a d4 player who likes to be positional. So after playing bishop e6, you will see many people playing knight c3, but I'm not a strong believer. The thing is, if you take, they have a possibility to go pawn to d5. That's fine, but you don't really have to take if you don't have to. So you can just continue with your normal development like knight f6. In fact, knight f6 is what I would play here, in the hope that if white takes, I'll still take back with my bishop. Remember, we are using our light squared bishop as an escape goat or something in the lines of a sacrificial lamb to achieve an open position. And this transposes back to the lines that I just showed you, where white may take and then you take back and then they play pawn to e4, because what else can they do? What else do they know? And this is when you go knight b6. Anyways, so once again, if they delay to take on d5 and, play something like knight c3, just go knight f6, waiting for this same move. It's not much of a stretch. There are some people who will not take on d5 even by this time. They will play something like knight f3 or pawn to e3. It doesn't matter. And you know what? Just don't take. The thing is, you want white to take you on d5. If they don't, that's fine. We'll take later on after we finish building our opening. So you go pawn to c6. Again, waiting for this to come. But you're going to see them playing all sorts of things, including bishop g5, pawn to e3, and even queen b3, targeting your undefended b7 pawn. For example, let's look at this. Queen b3. Almost everything that you do here is possible. You can go back if you want, or play pawn to b6, so that if these, you can still take back with your bishop. Yep, forcing them to take with the knight once again. In this position, since we don't have knight b6, queen takes d5 makes a lot of sense. After queen b3, by the way, the other move you may try is this, which equalizes the game on the spot. Instead of a queen b3, which you won't even see most of the times, white may play something like bishop g5, trying to get rid of one defender of the d5 square. So if you want, you can take, that's okay, or just go knight bd7. This is also a reasonable move, so that if they take, you recapture with your other knight, right? Anytime we feel like we're going to take on c4. So let's just say white plays pawn to e3, trying to keep it solid. You can see up to now, we haven't taken the c4 pawn, so it's up to us to keep things solid and castle short as highlighted, or maybe even play this Cambridge Springs move, queen a5. This is also decent, pinning these and also indirectly attacking the dark squared bishop. First of all, bishop d3 will just run into this. If they take, once again, you don't want to take with any other piece apart from the light squared bishop. That's why you put it there in the first place. Now check out this, you guys. The top played move in the Lichess database is bishop e2. Sometimes you will see bishop d3 here, which are all mistakes. Cause, this just allows you to win a free piece after bishop takes. Like pop, cause whatever they are going to do, you're going to win that piece or any of these pieces. If they play an intermediate move, you take on e2, which comes with a great attack. So they have to take back, and then you recapture on f6 with your knight. Who's up a piece? So remember this queen a5 move once again. I want you to master this position, memorize it at all costs. What am I saying in this position? There are some positional players who will choose not to take on d5 immediately to simplify the game. They will try as much as possible to keep the tension like this. So at the end of the day, you want to also keep the tension on the center by, not taking immediately. Just develop all your pieces like this. Your queen's knight must go to d7. Your king's knight must sit on f6. Your light squared bishop must sit on e6 as long as it can survive. And then later on, you may play your Slav pawn and develop your queen on a5. This is always good. And this works well most of the times against the London version or against this bishop g5 move. Once again, after c4 and bishop e6, white just has to play knight c3. After knight c3, you just go knight f6, playing strategically. And after knight f3, you don't take, you don't do anything, just continue developing your pieces. You go c6, the Slav structure. And it is here where we looked at moves like queen b3, where you can go b6 if you want, or queen b6. And we also looked at bishop g5, where you can go knight d7 and queen a5. But what about this move, bishop f4, where white tries to go the London way? As you can tell from the eval bar, the game is back to equal. Just like that. So you don't have to worry about that. In fact, in this position, Stockfish says, because your d5 square is well guarded, you can even take a free pawn on c4. That's just free. Even if they play pawn to e4, you have the c6 pawn eyeing the d5 square. Here you can just go pawn to b5 if you want. If they play e5, you go the Ali Hines way, attacking everything. This is even more painful. They won't do that. If they play pawn to a4, this will be like the worst move of all times. You always have b4. Again, this is another reason I like, playing bishop e6, because it always ensures that our c4 pawn is well guarded. After playing pawn to b4, whichever move white plays next, for example, knight a2, we can now go queen a5 if we want, or knight a6, or even pawn to a5. But to keep the eval bar up, knight takes e4 carries more weight, yes, allowing white to take our b pawn, but at an expense of queen b6, developing with tempo. a5 is coming. Besides, our light squared bishop will sit on d5 as always. Maybe we try to look at the London version of this. Again, bishop e6 stops white from playing the accelerated London system due to pawn takes. Well, if they play pawn to e3, the secret is not just to take immediately. You can do that, by the way. You can do that if you want to, but just play positional chess and open up the center later on in the game. So you go pawn to c6. If they take, you take with your bishop and play knight f6. If they go knight f3, you just keep everything simple. Say knight c3. You just want to take with your bishop, right? You go knight b d7. Again, bishop d3 will run into pawn takes. So this is where you will see them taking on d5, or probably go bishop e2 this time. By the way, this is always a free pawn if you want to. So let's just play queen a5. You want to complete your development, right? As always, this is where your queen belongs. They cast a shot, and then this is when you take that free pawn. It's not even making sense, for white not to take on d5. Most of the times they're going to take. So your bishop will go to d5, and then you play pawn to e6. If they play e4 stopping, bishop d5, you can always change your strategy. Go bishop g4, e5, you go knight d5. You see, pawn to e6 is coming. Pop, pop, playing traditional chess, which is annoying to your opponents. Right, you guys, so this is just one of the ways you can take d4 players out of their prep, out of what they know, out of their comfort zone, by playing strategically. Bishop e6 and bishop d5. You use your light squared bishop as a sacrificial lamb to open up the game. If they try to be solid, you just remember this position, which resembles the Cambridge Springs, where you put your queen on a5 before taking on c4. The c4 pawn is always your pawn, so just keep everything simple. If things don't go your way, you have bishop g4 and bishop takes, followed by pawn to e6. Let me know what you think about this other way of crashing the d4 opening, and I'll reply to your comment. Now, time for you to go and check out my new e5 defense course, which I have also linked in the comment section down below. And I'm glad to say, so far it has received a lot of attention and people are getting it like crazy. So it's an opening response that you try against White's e4 opening. You're going to learn how to play against the Scotch, the Ruy Lopez, the Bishop's opening, 3 Knights opening, the 4 Knights game, the Vienna game, even the Italian game. So it's the complete e5 defense course that I just launched with my team. You better go and check it out. Thank you so much for watching this video. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Bye bye.